it's Dana Marie, and today I'm going to show you kind of the final step when you're bagging a lining. That means creating a completely machine sewn lining to a jacket. So I'm going to stitch all the way around my facing pieces. You can see my lining attached to the facing. I will go ahead and stitch it the hem, meaning I am going to stitch the lining to the hem of the jacket. I will have a small opening left at the very bottom where the facing and lining meet. That's going to be the jump so that your jacket hangs nicely and doesn't pull up from the outside. In one sleeve, I will leave an opening. That's so you can turn your jacket. I leave my opening about 6 to 8 inches. The heavier your jacket is, say you're doing a heavy wool, then you want to leave an adequate amount of opening so that you're not trying to tug a heavy jacket through a small hole in the sleeve. I always leave the opening in the sleeves so it's completely hidden. Make sure you attach any shoulder pads to the inside. Nothing worse than turning a complete jacket and then realize you've forgotten the shoulder pads. So I will pull my jacket sleeves out, and my lining sleeves are out, and you're looking at everything from the wrong side. Notice everything I'm looking at is the wrong side because I have sewn my jacket to my lining shell right sides together. So I'm visually looking at the wrong side of the jacket at this point. I will lay my jacket on the table so I have the lining sleeve going one direction and the jacket sleeve going the other, keeping everything nice and straight, no twists in the sleeve, because if you twist the sleeve now and sew it together, you won't get your arm down the sleeve. I bring the two together, lining to jacket sleeve, like a hug, but then you want to sew that lining to the jacket sleeve hem right sides together. So it just takes a little finagling. You do it a few times and you get used to it. Just bring the sleeves together and then turn the lining and sleeve so that they are right sides together. Put a little pin at your sleeve seam, lining sleeve, match those seams up. This happens to be a jacket with a two-piece sleeve, so there's 2 seams in the sleeve. You can mark your front and back if you only have 1 seam. Put a little pin to hold, and now go to the other side and complete that. But see how it makes a complete circle? No twists. I always double check before I go to sew those sleeves together. No twists. Now you have another opportunity to view this. Make sure everything's nice and square, no twists. Lay everything out carefully. There's my opening. And remember, you only need an opening in one sleeve, so you can sew the other sleeve completely shut. So now I'm going to put that lining sleeve to the jacket sleeve. I bring them together like a hug, but then I'm going to make sure I pin it together right sides together. It feels a little awkward the first time you do this, but after you've done it a few times, it becomes easier and easier. And then you'll be finding you'll be lining a lot of your jackets because a lined jacket hangs nicer, doesn't wrinkle as much, and it's all finished. And the added bonus is you don't have to finish all those interior seams as long as your fabric isn't one prone to fray a lot, like a really loosely woven boucle or twill. But most jacket fabrics are fine, so you don't have to finish all those interior seams. Double check my sleeves, make sure there's no twists, and then I will be ready to take this to the sewing machine and sew just that little circle where the lining and sleeve hem attach. Alright, so now we've stitched the lining to the jacket sleeve right at the hemline. And I'm stitched in just a little 1/4 inch seam, and it attaches that lining to the jacket completely by machine. At this point, it kind of looks like a straight jacket because you've got these 2 loops, which are the arms. I'm going to find the opening in the one lining sleeve, and then I just reach in and I usually grab up by the shoulder. I might grab the shoulder pad, and then I just start pulling the jacket to the right side. So basically stuffing that whole jacket through that hole. It kind of looks like you're doing a sausage casing at this point, but you're going to work that jacket through that opening in the sleeve lining. Now you can see why, if you're doing something that was a heavy jacket on the outside, or you had a lot of embellishment or piecing, that you want to leave that opening to turn through a little bit larger, so that you're not working that jacket too hard, or trying to tug on that lining and ripping that your opening. So give yourself plenty of room. You can always close it up later. Then I'm going to use a point turner, and I can reach right in through that hole where I turned it in the sleeve. So sometimes you have to go find it, because now your sleeve is on the inside. And just check your sleeves and find the one that you left the opening in. And then I can reach in with my point turner, and that's how I can ease out all the curves. If I have a collar, if I have the facing curves, just depends on the style of jacket you're doing it, because you can put a lining in any style of jacket. As long as you have the facing for it to attach. You can even do it clear to the edge. There's all manners of way of doing lining in a jacket. But now through that sleeve opening, I'm just going to work all my corners and points out. And I use the edge of my point turner, and I'll just run it along the seam, just kind of forcing that seam open. If you have a fabric that really needs to be pressed, it's really resistant, then you'll want to press it, and you can put a clapper right in through that sleeve opening hole and get in there and press it before you've turned it. It just depends on your fabric and how easy. But I find if I just use my point turner and creaser, I can run it right along those seams, and it just forces them to be open. So then when I do my final press, they'll be nice and crisp. Alright, so now we've got everything sewn together. I'm going to pull my sleeves to the outside. That lining sleeve will just follow right behind because it's now stitched at the hem. Pull your other sleeve out. Got to be able to wear that jacket. And at this point, I just double check to make sure that there's no, pleats or folds when I sewed the lining fabric to the jacket sleeve. I always pre-press my sleeve hems and my jacket hems while I'm doing the construction of the jacket shell. It makes it a lot easier if they're already pre-pressed in place and you're not trying to press a little small circle for a hem. At this point, everything's sewn by machine, except for that tiny little bit where the facing and lining attached, and you left that little bit, and that's the jump in the jacket. So there's a nice hem, all machine sewn, and all I'll have to do is do an inch worth of hand sewing where that little opening was in the front where the jump is, because you've got to fold that jump into place. And there you have a machine sewn lining.